This is Mary Beth Janssens, the Grants Manager for the Community Foundation. This training clip is an amateur production, and your patience and understanding is greatly appreciated, especially during awkward pauses, asides, any background noise, or if I make an error and correct myself on the fly. Obviously, my future in broadcasting is not bright. The following recorded clip is going to provide an overview of the EC Impact software and various tasks you may need to do or wish to do within the software. In the clip, I'll also illustrate how an agency already on EC Impact can register to apply for the general endowment applications that are open. Any documents or links that I refer to may change from this video and may look slightly different in your experience. Please be sure that you are using the most recent information and do not rely on the video for information from those kind of documents. So assuming that you are an agency that is already on EC Impact and you have your own login or given a login by somebody in your agency, first thing I recommend highly is that you bookmark that email address, I'm sorry, that URL. You'll see up here that the URL has this number at the end, which is 23180U. That is what is called our organizational code. If at any time you log back onto the software or log onto the software from another location, occasionally somewhere in the process, this organizational code gets lost. And when you come to the sign-in screen, you'll actually have 3 empty spaces. And the first one will be the organizational code. That's going to be that 23180U that you'll need to enter manually. What I recommend is creating a contact card that has your login information, your password, and this information, the 23180U. If you get stopped up at any time, please give us a call. We'll be happy to walk you through that if you have any problems, but just to have for future knowledge. Enter the username of the person going in and the password. If you forget your password, we don't have the best luck with this link. Please just give Sue Cordio or I a call, and you can sign into the secure server. You can access the software from any web browser. I'm going to go over the layout of the software real quick after I go do a quick interview on how to apply for the open request for proposals letter of intent that's open right now. Important thing to keep an eye on is your session time remaining. You're going to have 2 hours as soon as you log in. When you hit 30 minutes, you're going to get a warning screen, and you'll be given the option to refresh and be given another 2 hours. If you are away from your computer for an extended period of time and it times out, you are going to have only the information that was most recently saved available to you. So you want to make sure as you're making any changes that you make changes and save that information. If you are entering narration or any long information and have to walk away, just scroll down to the bottom of your screen, which I'll go over in another area, and click Save, and you're going to have that information there for you. That is also another reason why I highly suggest creating your narratives in a Word document or other type of document. If you're an existing agency and you log on and you wish to apply for the open RFP process at the General Endowment, which the guidelines are available in the Resource Center, you can click on those and get a listing of what those are. The link to go on and request inclusion in the open RFP is going to be in this second box, which is also going to contain any processes that you're already in. For the case of this agency, it was created for another video, and so they are already enrolled in the General Endowment Animal Welfare area, and I've submitted an application on their behalf, which as we come to it, I will show you where that is going to give us that information. So when I click on this, and I do have a link, that means that there are some open processes available. You are only going to see the open processes available that you are eligible for. We don't see the animal welfare listed here because the organization has already applied for it or has started the application for it. Because of the guidelines of this grant cycle, you can only submit 2 applications if one of them is the organizational development category. So given that, I'm going to choose that option. If you were to choose the general endowment general category and then actually have one in the animal welfare environment and one in the general, you would be asked when you submit to choose which application we consider. If we happen to catch that that's the case before, we would contact you, but we can't guarantee that we'd do that. So please be aware that one has to be in the organizational development category in order to be eligible to do multiple applications. From here, you're going to click continue. In speaking about multiple applications, if you belong to a large entity, please be sure that you've spoken to anybody else in the organization, especially in large municipalities, that to make sure that nobody else is applying, so that you're able to only, and you submit 2 applications per each tax ID number. When you click on, I've chosen the organizational development, we're going to complete the registration. We're going to get a message here confirming that we've done that. They're going to give us, again, a link to the guidelines and some information about suggestions on how the letter of intent should be comprised of, what kind of information is going to be helpful in that. You'll have a confirmation number here, and you'll be prompted to continue. We're going to click the continue, but at this point we could navigate anywhere else on the page, and we would be partially lined up to apply for that organizational development. When you click continue, you're going to have the organizational development category. This is going to pop up for you. You're going to need to assign a program or a proposal to this application, and for the organizational development, this is in almost all cases going to be a new program because it would not be an existing program that you have as an organizational development request. So you're, as opposed to listing here and choosing one of your existing programs, and any things listed here are going to be anything that you've been doing or done on the software previously for your agency is going to list here, but we obviously want to make a new one. So we're going to create a new program proposal and assign it. And this is where I would put that information in. You want to create a name. As I said in previous, for the animal welfare, environment, or general other categories, your program name should best describe the request, like low-cost dog and pet adoption in North Central Mass, or dropout prevention presentation series. The name doesn't need to include your agency name, but should somewhat convey the nature of the grant request it's being created for. For the organizational development category, use a program name that best describes the request, like strategic planning and mission statement revision or certification of volunteers in CPR. You don't need to refer to the general endowment or the category of the ask in the program name. The description of the program should be brief, but outline what it is that the program does. So you will not speak directly to the request, but with the activities of what the requests are. So a program like the low-cost veterinary would list that they do that. In the case of the strategic planning, you're going to say strategic planning for the organization, which includes board development, and list a brief explanation of what the program is. And you're going to choose your primary contact for that program. You're going to choose the address for the program, the primary email for the program, and the phone number that you want associated with the program. This is going to be the information that our staff will use if they need to contact somebody specifically for this particular application, and it's relevant to the program. I'm just going to cancel and return to the previous page because this session is really about overviewing the software. At this point, it's going to continue to leave this application open, but again, it is not complete until I have added and assigned a program to it. Were you to complete this section and the required uploads, you would get a submit button, but without submitting an actual letter of intent with an assigned program, the application is not complete. At any time, you can go back to the home screen by clicking home. And when you log into the software, you'll see that the name of the person who has logged in, and it's going to be the user ID. So if it's your organization name, it might say hello XYZ, or the person's name. If you use multiple people use the same logon, that's going to depend on what login they use. You can change your password, and to your password, it will be the password of this person. This username can be changed by clicking on changing your password. You can take a look at the user profile if you wanted to change what that is. If you're using a generic logon that you're giving to everybody in your organization, I suggest adding their email addresses and at least their phone numbers to the profile so that they have the opportunity to indicate themselves in other areas of the software where there is a drop-down that lists contacts. But I do highly recommend that all users that are using the software be given their own login and password. This provides a great trail. We are able to look at the logs for the logins and see when the last time a given user went into the software. If you have the same login for multiple people, we will only be able to tell you when the software was last opened by that user name, not who did that. If you have people use their individual logins, then we're going to be able to tell you who logged in, what time that was. It's also important to remember that the software can have consecutive sessions running. You could open another window here and actually log into the software again as Mary Jane Dobson and go between the two. And whether you're working in the same process or another part of the software, I sometimes do that if you are in the middle of something and realize that you want to change something on the agency profile. If you're comfortable in the software, I can recommend that you open a new browser, go into the software, and log in again. And actually, I went to the wrong thing. That's not the agency. I'd go to the agency login and log in again as Mary Jane, and I have 2 sessions running. The important thing to remember then is that whatever was saved last is saved. So you do have the ability and the possibility of overwriting someone else or yourself. So I don't recommend the dual windows unless you're really comfortable with what you're doing, or whatever. If you're cutting and pasting from old information, you want to make sure you're on completely different processes and just keep an eye on where you are anytime you're adding some information to the software. If you make a change in one screen and then are in another, I highly recommend reloading the page so that whatever you've done on the other page is now going to be shown for you. This is the only caution, or only time that I caution about people having multiple access or consecutive access to the program, is that if you have a coworker working in the finance part of the application, you can be working in the narrative. However, if that person goes into the narrative and they add something after you have been in there, it will save what they've done and not what you've done. So you want to be somewhat careful about coordinating access into your applications. I'm going to take a quick look at the overview of the software and just provide a couple of tips. Again, you always want to sign out when you're done. The software will eventually sign out when you close the browser, but just for security reasons, it's a good idea to make sure that you sign out when you're done. Anytime you hit home, this screen is going to come up where it's going to have a calendar. If there's anything that we list as an event, it will show up here. Occasionally, you will see a news item here if there's something that we want you to know, like the fact that these applications are actually not live yet. there is a large stop sign listed here saying that the applications aren't actually open. I am in the process of testing them, so you shouldn't put information in. We may put deadlines there, or just any news item that we might have that would come up on this front page. You'll see that the software is co-branded. It is shared by the Community Foundation and the United Way. Your agency profile and your programs are going to be, your agency profile is going to be driven by your tax ID number, and you can do processes in both organizations under that single agency profile. We ask that you please be careful not to duplicate an agency profile, because we are charged by the agency profile, and duplication could cause us issues. If you duplicate the agency, we need to get rid of one of them, and we'll need to get all the information you may have already created into the existing account. So we ask that you please make sure that you don't create a new profile when one already exists. Given that, as the user that you are, you can look and see what the information is that's listed about your agency. This is saying the agency name is We Are the Best. This is the website. The primary contact is Mary Jane Dobson, and then the description of what the agency does. When you can click into an item, it means that you have access to change that information. On certain items, we do not give you access to change them because they are items that we don't want changed unless we've taken a look at why they need to be changed. Once you submit an application, that's a hard copy of that. So if there is an error in that, we only want to make that change if it's an actual error. If you were to change your agency name, we would want to make that change for you if it was a legal change, so that all of the information that currently exists for the program stays in the agency's old name, and the new information reflects the new agency name. And that's something we would do on what we call the back end, and that's where we go into the software from our side. So the agency profile is here. If your office happened to have, we ask for the physical headquarters. If you also had a post office box, you could add that. When you are adding contact or information, you have the option of making that a confidential, which means that the information, anytime an email was sent to that email address, it would not be part of the address that's visible. If you click primary, you are going to change who the primary contact is for the organization. Underneath contacts, you can create contact lists that will have a place where you can indicate that someone should be included in all emails. We ask that you keep the primary contact who, for the organization, is the most logical and the highest authorized person that would get that email and act on that email. By acting on that email, I would say if you're a larger organization with an executive director that perhaps has an assistant that generally reads through their mail prior to them getting it, I would suggest putting that person in that list. Otherwise, you want to send it to the highest person that's going to know that when it comes to them, they need to take a look at it. It may need some action. Otherwise, and again, if you put in that, if you click primary, that will overwrite. Under the address type, you're going to say that this is a mailing address, and you would put in the information and describe that this is the mailing address, and you may want to say in this, please, all mail, all should be delivered to this address. You could also put in, if you are a very large organization, you may want to add a branch address, and you would add that information and then put, we are the Smith Street extension of the primary organization. And then under the agency profile, all of that information would be listed. I'm just going to cancel and return to the previous page, not having done anything. Now, I'm going to go in and take a look at the contacts for the profile. At this point, we only have Mary Jane Dobson, the executive director. Several things can be done here to add contacts. you can either add those contacts yourself, which is one very recommended way to do that. And when you do that, you just click Add New. Here again, if you click Primary, you are going to be taking that primary away from the person you originally indicated. But in this area, you can click Include in All Emails. When we send email from the software, we are always aware if it is meant only for executive directors or particular personnel, we are able to filter that. Otherwise, if you want to include anybody who might want to be sent reminders about deadlines or any information that we might have come out of the software. When you collect the contact type, just a generalization of how the person fits within the organization. And that's more just for our use as well as anyone else that might be looking at the software. If you're an organization that has some high turnover, you may want to be very aware of listing the types so that future people looking at it will understand where that person was. So if someone was a volunteer, say 2 years from now, you look at that and nobody knows who that person is, we can go ahead and clean up your profile. You would go in and add all the information for the person, select the email address. Again, in this case, you're going to choose the primary email for the contact. The only time that you would choose agency default is if by chance you're changing who the agency contact is, or this person is also going to have the same email as the person designated as, as the email identified as the agency email. So you want to be careful of that, especially occasionally when you have a large organization, the contact name will be listed as the CEO who's in another universe. However, the email will come to someone local. You want to keep just a close eye on that to be sure that when you are looking at your profile, that when you are telling someone that their email address is listed, that in fact it is. So I'm going to get out of this, cancel and return to the previous page. Again, this is going to list all of the contacts. Everybody you add will be listed here, and the email that you're associating with them is going to be listed there. I'm going to go ahead and add a new person, and I'm going to include them in all emails. And we're going to say this is Stacy Jones, and Stacy is with our organization, so we don't need to add that, and she is a program director. And her primary is Stacy at xyz.com. The phone number type, you want to list what kind of phone number this is. If this is an organization that is large and you have a main phone number, but you also have direct lines, you can add both of those phone numbers, but you just want to indicate what that is. If you indicate mobile and you also have a work or direct line, we will always only use that mobile when necessary, and we suggest only using that if that is something that you consider acceptable for us to contact you through. So the phone type, in this case, I'm going to say that it's the main number, which I'm going to say is 978-854-7458. And then we're going to choose the type of address, and it's going to populate that she has the same address as the office. We can go ahead and change that. If she isn't at the office, we can also add addresses to that, and I'm going to show you how to do that in just a second. For this exercise, I'm going to say we're going to leave it as the same address. We're going to save and update. Anytime you get this error, this is telling you you've done something wrong. You need to put this in, and it will tell you the contact type. I forgot to put that Stacy's program director, so I'm going to try to save that again. So now that I've done that, when you come down to the bottom, you'll see that all of this information for Stacy is here. This is where you can then add additional information for Stacy. Stacy, now when you go to your agency profile, now I have the most recent information here and saved, so I don't need to hit save or update. But anytime you make a change, before you go anywhere, especially over to this tree, you want to make sure that you save and update. And I do that often just out of practice. So now we're going to go to the agency profile. Let's see, okay, all that information's there. Now we're going to take a look at the contacts. And you'll see that Mary Jane, she is the contact primary. Show you that because you do want to be aware of who you're indicating is the primary contact for the agency. Now, when we go back into Mary Jane's account, I'm sorry, Stacy's account, by going over here to edit, you'll see that here under Stacy's email, telephone, and addresses, this all says primary. This is indicating that if you were to add another email address, another phone number, another physical address, you're going to choose the one that's going to be the one that we should use first. So if we added another phone number for Stacy, and it's going to be her mobile, but actually she wants that to be the one we use, I'm going to hit primary. And then we're going to save and update that. And then save and return to the previous page. And you'll see now that the mobile is listed as the primary. At any time, if you need to edit the information, you can edit it. You can also delete information. If you're a large organization, I recommend on a regular basis that you take a look at your contact list and clean that up as you see it's necessary. That will help to make sure that the right people are getting emails. Also, if you have any individuals that leave the organization that do have access, you may want to change passwords or have us shut off their access to the program. Now that Stacy has been set up, you want Stacy to be able to get into the software, but with her own login. So in this case, you're going to request a login for Stacy. And you're going to come down and you want Stacy, you want to be careful of this autofill. Should have turned it off before, but I'm not going to take the time to do that. So I'm going to save that. We want her username to be Stacy Jones, and her password is going to be PWD123 PWD123, and we're going to save and update that. And that's going to tell us that we've requested a log on for Stacy. This is her information. And this would be the way that if you wanted to have one person to be adding a number of people to give them a login. You can also contact Sue or myself if you want to add people, and we can take care of that for you. You do not have to give someone a login. If they are a contact, they can simply be listed to have that information available for either a program or anything else that you want. When I am going to real quick go over so that you can see what you're going to see when that request is all set. See, that's your prompt to tell you that you're close to your 30 minutes. I'm just going to go in real quick, and I'm going to, we get an email when you request to have a new contact. Excuse me for being a little dense. There we go. Sue and I will get notification that there is a login request. We're going to see that it's Stacy Jones, and we're going to say, yep, we're going to let Stacy know. And then again, this is not anything that you need to take care of. So once that is done, Stacy would get an email telling her that she's got a login, and it would give her the password that you created for her. Now, like I said, if Sue or I do anything for you, we may ask you to right-click and refresh or reload. When you do that, you're going to come back to the home page. But now if you go up to Contacts, you'll see that Stacy Jones is all set with her login. When Stacy Jones goes to that login and types in her login username and the password that you give her, she's going to get a prompt. It's going to ask her to create her own email. Her own password. You should direct her to follow the directions there and make sure that she writes down that password. But again, we can be contacted to reset passwords, delete users, whatever it is that you need us to do. Again, it is a strong suggestion that you give all users their own access. It's the easiest way to turn access on and off and delete access quickly, rather than having to notify 25 people when one person has left that we need to change the password. If you have any questions about why you would have multiple users or not, please feel free to give me a call. Under this first square, this is all the information about your agency, the contacts. This is where any of the statements that you've made, if you want to add your vision statement, you can add your vision statement. If you add new, you'll see you can make a vision statement. We're just going to cancel and get out of that. You also have your program and proposal profiles. This is all the programs that have been created for your organization. This will have information that may be United Way or Community Foundation, depending on what your agency has done in the past 2 years with us. If you needed to make a change to any of the information about the programs, you can do that here. You can also create a new program or create the concept paper form from this area here if you chose to do that. Now I'm going to go back to the home page again. The second section is always going to have any open RFP processes, which will come and go as those are available. Them being open doesn't necessarily mean you are eligible to apply, but you're welcome to take a look, and we'll notify you as needed for any of the open letters for either the United Way or the foundation. Underneath that, you'll see here there's the Community Foundation, then the General Endowment Grant, and then we have 2 links. Anything that's a link is going to be a link to what we call a program form set or an application form set. This is going to bring you to the forms that are associated with a particular process. A process can be an application, reporting, submitting a budget, submitting success stories. It's where forms that you may have due to the agency, to either the Foundation or the United Way are going to sit, and this will be the name of that process. So in the case of if you were already receiving Community Foundation grant money from last year, it would have that it's the mid-year grant cycle reporting, and if you clicked on that, it would bring you to those forms. Community Foundation, you'll see here there is no link. Again, no link. This is just what we call the tree and how within the software these flow down. If you were also involved with activity on the United Way side, you would see the United Way of North Central Mass and all of the information and the processes that you are involved in there. These are going to be only processes that are active. They may be complete and final and have passed, but if they are active, which is a status that we control on the back end, they'll be listed here. If they are active, but they have passed and we have too many things going at the same time, these can get really busy. We make them what are called historical processes, and in that case, you'll have a link that's going to say historical process. You open that up, that's going to show you everything that's been done under the agency in the past and give you access to see those forms. From there, if you would like, you can go in and cut and paste information. It will not allow you to change anything. If you should happen to be looking through and see something that is incorrect or needs to be changed, let us know, because we would make the decision as to whether that's actually misinformation that we had or if the information is just changed. Again, that's going to be where all of those applications and whatnot sit. If you have any questions about that, again, please give myself or Sue a call. In the Resource Center, when we have various processes or want to make available something to the agencies and the program people that we think might be helpful, we will post them to the Resource Center. Usually it's going to be something we may have emailed out anyway, but it's always a good idea if you're doing a process to take a look and see what might be in the Resource Center. In this case, I do have a little information on what generally a letter of intent is considered. So it's a description that's just a little different from the information that's in the actual letter of intent application. It just kind of states what a letter of intent does in different words. Return to the home page. In the guidelines of the general endowment, this is going to bring you and show you that it's a PDF. So we're going to do that. The PDF will open in a separate screen, and you'll have access to that PDF, and you can log out at any time. Again, you can always tell who's logged in. You can change the profile, sign out, take a look at any other information that's here. If you have any other issues, again, please feel free to give Sue or I a call. I had mentioned about the idea of saving your work as you complete an application and complete the application within a Word document. Real quick so that we can do that for you, I'm actually going to assign this low-cost adoption. Normally, you likely would not have an existing program as an organizational development process, but I'm going to do that for the sake of this demonstration. Go ahead and get that. Now I'm going to go into that concept paper. One of the things that I recommend when you first create your application is to get a printable version of this is a form that can be either printed, or you can save it as a PDF and print it, or just save it as a PDF, whatever works best for you. This will give you a listing of the application and all the information that currently is on it. That's going to include whatever the software has populated, as well as any information you have already gone in and entered and saved. This is a great way to print out a blank application before you begin the process to give to anyone that you may be asking to collaborate on the process, but having report the information back to you, or if you wanted to work offline or just have, I know I like to have paper and be able to take a look at the questions. If you do that, you'll have that. What I then suggest is, in the case of the narrative for the general endowment letter of intent, you have 4,000 characters. I highly suggest creating a Word document, and I'm going to do that, where you can work and create the application narrative. But you can be sure that you're not going to lose information that you save, and the versions that you want are going to be what they want. So you do your work here, and in this case, then you would save that onto your computer as you make the changes. Make sure that you have what you want in there. One of the features, the biggest reasons that I recommend doing this is because we do have people who, for whatever reason, may have a mishap with signing out of the software or having their information lost. If you have it saved somewhere else, it's just a matter of resubmitting it, copy and pasting it, and putting it into the narrative. The other thing that it allows you to do is when you work in another document, like in the case of, this was my document, which is actually my script, and I wanted to cut and paste this information. I'm going to copy, and then in the narrative, I'm going to paste. Now, in this case, it says that I have 4,000 characters. I'm not sure how many characters I used, so I'm going to go down to the bottom, and I'm going to save my work. And it's going to show me that I only used 1373. Great. I'm in good shape. I can continue working here, or I can go back in my Word. You can cut and delete this information as it changes. Suggest saving your work anytime you have something that you don't want lost already there. And again, you can change the information right up until the time that you hit submit this application. Word does have a feature that will allow you to do a word count. It does tend to agree with PC Impact, but not always, but you can also use that feature while you're working to see if you're reaching that 4,000. We do have a limit often on narratives of certain amounts. That should indicate the level of brevity that we're looking for. 4,000 is the most that we give, and the description of the information that we need should be able to be conveyed in that 4,000 characters. We do take a pretty good look at that in most cases. So if you have any issues with the amount of space you have available in a given application, please give us a call. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get out of this. Now I'm just going to get out because I just got out and didn't save that information. When I go back in, only the information I saved is going to be there. If I had added anything new, it wouldn't be there. If I tried to save and mark as complete, it would not mark as complete because I have not put in the correct information. Now, if you go back to the home screen, it's going to tell you, again, this is what exists and is open. This is going to tell you that you are able to apply for the general category for the letter of intent, which this agency is not because they're only allowed to do 2. If you were to create 3 applications, we would contact you and make you choose one of the 2 other areas, which application you want submitted. Down here will also be the processes that the agency is involved in. Unless you know that you are responsible for an area, I don't suggest making any changes in things, but you do have the ability to move in and out of those applications without making any changes. Again, if there's any questions, any information that I can provide, if you need more assistance in understanding the software or navigating through it, please feel free to give us a call and we will walk you through the process. Thank you so much, and thank you for your understanding and patience with my somewhat disjointed narration.